Selesnya is everyone's favorite color combo in Magic the Gathering, as long as you're not one of my patrons, because you didn't vote for this guy. Yeah, we did all of the other 2 colors, and several of them beat this guy several times. So sad. So why don't people like Selesnya? It's green, it's white. Those are 2 colors. I think it's because you think that it can't draw cards. But what if I told you that there was a commander you could choose that would draw you an extra card and gain you 1 life for doing something you were gonna do on each turn anyway? You'd say that's Tatiova Benthic Druid, and she's in Simic, so what are you talking about, Phil? I'm talking about Wylie Duke Atiin Hero. But he's more than a hero to me, he's a teen titan. Go! Wylie Duke is going to cost you 3 mana for a 4/2, and whenever he becomes tapped, you gain 1 life and you draw a card. That's pretty simple. All you have to do is make him attack and you get to draw a card. Sorry, what's this little tape doing here? Let's peel that off with the magic of editing. Yeah, so Vigilance kind of screws up the second half of that. Vigilance, for those who don't know, means that when the creature attacks, they don't tap, which means you don't draw a card and you don't gain a life. I'm starting to see why everyone's sleeping on this commander. But what if I told you it's actually really easy to tap him? It's not like even difficult, like at all. Like, there's so many cards you can put out that let you tap him. So like, yeah, let's do that. And then there are cards that let you untap him. So you can do that. And you can do it over and over again, and you can draw a ton of cards and gain like a little bit of life. You don't gain that much life, but you draw a lot of cards. Drawing cards is good. If there's anything that these videos should instill into your brain, it is that if you have a commander with a triggered ability that says draw a card on it, that's commander worthy. And it's commander worthy here. So first, let's tap this handsome lad. Tap him. Paradise Mantle, it's an equipment. It costs 0 mana, but it costs 1 to equip, so it basically costs 1, and it lets you tap a creature to gain 1 mana of any color. Now, this guy's a dork, but he's a dork that draws you a card as he's dorkin'. Loam Dryad is a 1-drop creature. It lets you tap it and another creature to gain 1 mana of any color, so it's a worse dork, but it taps Wylie. Multani's Harmony is an aura that you can put onto Wylie Duke that would make him tap for 1 mana. Jaspira Sentinel is a better version of Loam Dryad since it also has reach. It's a better blocker, I guess. You can also use it to tap Wylie. Springleaf Drum lets you tap a creature you control to get 1 mana of any color. Boy, are we noticing a pattern here? Nature's Chosen lets you tap and untap. The first tap lets you untap a creature, land, or artifact, which you could use to untap Soul Ring to get 2 mana. And then the other ability lets you untap him. So it's both on a 1-drop enchantment card. So good. You can only do these once, and you can only do them at sorcery speed on your turns, but that's still pretty great. Karametra's Favor lets you tap the creature to get 1 mana of any color. It also draws you a card when it enters, so it replaces itself in your hand. And then you draw another card off of Wylie. Lagorin is the first saddle creature. This is a 1/1 with flying, and whenever it attacks while saddled, you put a +1/+1 counter on 2 other mounts or vehicles. We've got a few other mounts and vehicles. Mobile Homestead is a vehicle. It has haste as long as you control a mount. When it attacks, you can look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you can put it out onto the battlefield. So it's also ramp. It's also a vehicle. With crew too. Oh, crew, saddle, crew, and number. Saddle and number. That's the power that the creature has to have in order to make that saddle effect happen, or that crew effect happen. When crew happens to a vehicle, that vehicle becomes a creature until end of turn. You can also crew as many times as you want. So if you wanted to crew and it became a vehicle, you might think, well, now I can't crew it again. You can. You can crew. You can double crew. You can row crew. Minions 2, Rise of Crew. Sapphic Steed has first strike and lifelink, saddle 4. Whenever it attacks, you get to make a 3/3 Flying Angel token. Flying Angels are pretty good. I will say, saddling it with a 4 when it's a 2/2 means that you're probably saddling it with a creature that would do more damage if it was swinging on its own. You're doing it for the angels, okay? They like to watch. The angels sit in the hotel cuck chair. Drover Grizzly, it's a bear mount. Whenever it attacks while saddled, creatures you control get trample until end of turn. Trample's not bad. It's also just an enabler for Wylie to draw a card. Honor-Worn Shaku taps for 1 colorless mana, and you can tap an untapped legendary creature you control to untap it, so you can tap it again for a colorless mana. But also, I just want to tap Wylie Duke. I want to tap him. I want to tap that. Sue me. Cultivator's Caravan adds 1 mana of any color when you tap it. It also has crew 3. This is just a mana rock that has crew. Fortune Loyal Steed has you scry in 2 when it enters the battlefield. When it attacks while saddled, it and the creature that saddled it bounce out and bounce back in, which also untaps both of them. So think about that if you want to tap them again. Mighty Servant of Luke O. It's a Jaeger from Pacific Rim. It's got trample and it asks you to bring 2 pilots. Whenever it's crewed by 2 pilots, it gets to draw a card when it deals combat damage to a player, and it's a 6/6 with trample, so it's probably going to deal some damage. It also has a ward protecting it, making people discard a card if they want to stop you from using your Jaeger. See who Wylie Duke is drift compatible with. Ornery Tumblewag is here for you to build your Brushwag Kindred deck. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to put a +1/+1 on a creature of your choice, and when it attacks when saddled, it doubles the number of +1/+1 counters on a creature. This is a great way to get commander damage out if you want to make Wylie Duke big enough to swing in to win. That's one of the ways you could win. Lumbering World Wagon is a vehicle with power equal to the number of lands you control. Whenever it enters or attacks, you get to look through your library for a basic land and put it out onto the battlefield, which both helps you, ramps for vehicles, so you can do sick tricks, but also it helps you clear out your deck, so you're more likely to draw big, cool finisher cards to win the game, hopefully, instead of lands. You still need lands in your deck, but you want to get them out of your deck as fast as possible. This helps. Thunderous Velocipede has trample. It also gives a creature +1/+1 counter when they enter, but if their mana value is 4 or greater, they get 3 +1/+1 counters. Wylie's worth 3. This is just a vehicle. There are some creatures that get helped by this later, though. Relic of Legends lets you tap it for 1 mana of any color, but you can also tap an untapped legendary creature you control to get 1 mana of any color. Like Wylie. He's just being Wylie. Enduring Vitality gives creatures you control the ability to tap for 1 mana of any color. It also has Vigilance, and when it dies, it goes to the graveyard, but then just comes back as an enchantment. It's not an enchantment creature anymore, it's just an enchantment, but it still exists and still lets you tap Wylie. It's kind of the best of both worlds. Don't know how to pronounce this. Sit Anal Hierophants lets creatures you control tap for 1 green mana. Leyline Immersion is so good in this deck. It's just so good in general. I don't know why I hadn't heard of this card. You enchant up a legendary creature, it gets Ward 2, which means that if someone wants to target your creature with some sort of removal, they have to pay 2 additional mana, and it lets you tap that creature for 5 mana. You can also mix up the colors. It's also worth noting this spell only costs 4 mana. So it's mana positive on turn 1. This is better than Soul Ring. It's not better than Soul Ring. Soul Ring only costs 1 mana, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Wandering Rescuer is a creature that costs 5 mana. She's got Flash. She's got Double Strike. And she gives other tapped creatures you control hexproof. So that means that if someone's targeting Wylie Duke, you just gotta tap Wylie Duke and he's safe. But wait, how does the Wandering Rescuer help you tap Wylie Duke? Well, she's got Convoke, meaning that you can cast her by tapping creatures you control to get mana to cast her. They can add a mana of whatever color they are, which means Wylie Duke can tap for green or for white. And the Flash means that you can play her on an opponent's turn. So if someone's trying to come for your boy, no, they're not. Rolling Hamsphere is a pretty expensive vehicle. It gets +1/+1 for each hamster you control, which means this is the 2nd video in a row where I have mentioned hamsters. Whenever it attacks, you make 3 red hamsters. They're 1/1s, and then it deals damage equal to the number of hamsters you control to any creature. Any target, not any creature. I misspoke. Once this ball gets rolling, you'll see some serious hamster shenanigans. Perhellion, aye, Captain. The captain is Wylie Duke. It's a vehicle, it's got first strike, it's got flying, it's got vigilance, it's a damn airship. And when it attacks, you make two 4/4 white angels with vigilance and flying that are tapped and attacking. Those are some good high quality tokens. You're token with the best of them. Finally, I'm not going to go into these lands in super big detail, but they're lands that let you tap Wylie. Holdout Settlement, Scene of the Crime, Survivor's Encampment. That was the last one. I didn't say that in a way that like it was the end of the list, but that is the last one. I just double checked. I thought there might be more. Congratulations. We've tapped Wylie Duke. We've drawn one card and gained one life. Is that really worth building a commander for? No, it's not. You need to be able to untap this boy and untap this boy regularly, which is where I'm going to talk about a difference of opinion I have with one VeggieWagon. I should say his content creator name normal. I just call him VeggieWagon because I think it's funny. You might think, if you're new to Magic the Gathering, that VeggieWagon is some sort of vehicle that you could use to attack and get a food token. But no, VeggieWagon is a good friend of mine, a member of the Decked Out channel, and he made a short about Wylie Duke a while ago, talking about how to use Wylie Duke as a Storm commander. Storm is where you cast a bunch of spells and then build up the amount of spells that have been cast in a turn, and then play a big Storm payoff card. So Veggie wanted to cast a bunch of spells that untap Wylie Duke as instants or sorceries, something to help you get your storm count up. They usually cost like 1 mana, maybe 2 mana at most. And there's a lot of them in these colors specifically that will do that for you. Then you get the storm count up and blow someone up with something like Aetherflux Reservoir. The reason I don't necessarily like this strategy as much is that Selesnya just doesn't have a lot of storm payoffs. You might notice Aetherflux Reservoir doesn't say storm on it. No, it's used in storm decks, but it's just sort of, it can kind of work in any storm deck. Really, the biggest payoff I think you could get with storm is something like Weather the Storm that has storm, and it gains you 3 life, and then you copy it for every other spell you've cast that turn. If you were going for like a life gain strategy, you could do that, but we don't have access to black, and black has all of the good life drain stuff, the stuff that kills your opponents as you gain life. White just has, you can gain a lot of life. I don't know what you're going to do with it though. So I don't think Storm is the way to go here, but much love to VeggieWagon and much love to Decked Out channel. It's there. Check it out. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to untap Wylie Duke on the regular. Get regular untaps so we can tap him again. Seeker of Skybreak lets you tap it to untap target creature, pretty much as straightforward as this can get. Sting the Glinting Dagger we used in Crime Boat. This is an equipment that you can equip to a creature, and then it untaps on every combat step, which means on each of your opponent's turns, Wylie Duke will untap. So if you have a way to tap Wylie Duke, like one of those auras that lets him tap for mana, that means you just get to draw a card on everyone else's turn and gain 1 life. Quest for Renewal should get activated fairly quickly. This one you put quest counters on, like in Moira. Once you have 4 quest counters on it, all creatures you control untap during your opponent's untap steps, which means another way you can tap Wylie Duke. So if you have Wylie Duke with this and Sting, you get to draw 2 cards on everyone's turn, because you can tap him after the untap step and then tap him again at the combat step. So that's 2 cards every turn. Drum Bellower untaps all of your creatures at the beginning of each opponent's untap step if you have this, while you also have Quest for Renewal, or, I don't know, something else that's going to untap your permanents at the beginning of everyone's untap step. You can just do it again and again. All of these stack. You can just do it, as long as you do it during the untap step. So during the untap step, you untap, then you tap, and then you untap again, and then you tap. We're tapping. We're tap dancing. Just giving that to you. So you can edit some legs on me. Tap dancing. Seedborn Muse, more like Sam Reich Muse, because this one's a game changer. It's been here the whole time. It lets you untap all of your permanents on each opponent's untap step. That means creatures and lands all untap. So you can tap Wylie again. Veteran Beast Rider untaps all the creatures you control at the beginning of your end step. So that's a different time that he untaps. You've really got to pay attention to all the times he untaps so that you can tap him again and make sure you're getting that value. Dazzling, Theater, and Prop Room. We're specifically looking at Prop Room here. That untaps creatures you control on everyone's untapped step. Though, I guess I forgot to talk about Dazzling Theater when I was talking about ways to tap. That gives creature spells you cast Convoke. That's the thing on Wandering Rescuer, so you can tap your creatures to pay for other creatures. Now, all of that is pretty great, but it also makes Wylie a target for removal. There are some ways to protect him, like Ward, but we also have ways to protect him in Swiftfoot Boots. Swiftfoot Boots is a great protection piece, and it also has him going faster. But rather than running a ton of protection, I like to just put in backup plans. Other creatures we can use our tap and strategy on to do well and do great that could really be the commander of this deck on their own, but are just in the 99 instead, so we don't have to pay commander tax and we can just pivot. What am I talking about? I'm talking about something reliable, like a Honda Accord, or Amara, Soul of the Accord. Whenever she becomes tapped, she makes a 1/1 soldier creature with lifelink. Think of all the times you're tapping Wylie Duke. Now imagine you make a 1/1 soldier with lifelink instead of drawing a card. That's going to be a pretty big board. Miriam, Herd Whisperer, gives vehicles and mounts you control hexproof on your turn, and whenever they attack, they get a +1/+1 counter. She's great if you just want to run this like a vehicle mount deck. There are enough, I think. Maybe not quite enough. She's just sort of a value piece for those. Trelasara, Moon Dancer, lets you scry one and put a +1/+1 counter on her whenever you gain life, like you do with Wylie Duke, but there's also other ways you gain life in this deck. The lifelink on the soldiers. Reluctant Role Model has survival, which means that at your second main phase after combat, if they are tapped, you put a +1/+1 counter, lifelink, or flying counter on it, and whenever creatures you control die, if they have counters on them, you can move them somewhere else, like to your commander, or to your backup commander, or your backup commander. Stonybrook Schoolmaster. I'm going to Skrull. Stonybrook Schoolmaster makes a 1/1 blue merfolk whenever it's tapped. Oh hey, also worth mentioning, all of the things that give all of your creatures the ability to tap for mana. Yeah, all of these creatures that get things when they tap, that's good. And all of that redundancy you have for all of those things that give you can tap this creature for 1 mana, that means those cards don't have to go to waste if you've already got one on Wylie Duke. You can put them on the other creatures that want to be tapped. Like Kona Rescue Beastie also has survival, like the Reluctant Role Model. When this one is tapped during your second main phase, you get to put a permanent card onto the battlefield. That could be a big, dumb, stompy vehicle, like the Parhelion, or it could just be a land. Lands are permanents. So we've got our backups, we've got our ways to tap, we've got our ways to untap. Let's get some frickin' value, shall we? On the Trail lets you put a land card down when you draw your second card each turn. That is each turn, not just on your turns. So if you're drawing 2 cards on an opponent's turn, which will happen pretty regularly, you will always be able to dump your lands out and have a ton of mana available to do big, dumb, stupid things later. Well Rested is the best card in this deck. It's an aura. It's from Fallout. You attach it to a creature, and then when that creature becomes untapped, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, gain 2 life, and draw a card. Which means that all of these times that you're tapping and untapping Wylie Duke, he is getting considerably larger, and you are now drawing an extra card each time you do that cycle. And you're gaining more life, which we actually don't have a payoff for. Maybe I should put Aetherflux in here. There aren't a ton of extra super value pieces, mostly because all of the pieces of this deck sort of just make value on their own. But how are we winning? Well, you can win by using Well Rested and other +1/+1 counters to make Wylie Duke. Well, you could use Well Rested and other +1/+1 counter generators to make Wylie Duke huge and deal some commander damage. You could get a giant board of different tokens and just storm on in. And that's probably how this is going to win. I don't know if you noticed how many things make tokens in this deck, but yeah, there's definitely going to be a big wide board for you. Every time I've play tested this deck, there's been a big wide board. And Selesnya has some fantastic options for having a big wide board and wanting to just win. Craterhoof Behemoth. It gives creatures you control +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control, and trample until end of turn. So you slap this guy out when you got 12 creatures out. Everything's getting +12/+12, and you can just run shit over. Moonshaker Cavalry does kind of the same thing, except instead of trample, they get flying. So this goes over the top instead of going through, like Craterhoof. It can be better, it can be worse, it depends on what type of blockers your opponents have. And finally, Triumph of the Hordes gives everything +1/+1 and infect until end of turn, so you can just win with poison. A lot of people think this is a sweaty card, but I maintain that it is better to win and have the game end so you can play another game. If you don't like it, that's tough. Those are the 3 big, easy win cons, but you're going to have enough tokens, you're going to be doing enough damage that you should be able to win with traditional damage. And also, with all the extra cards you're drawing, with all the extra mana you're generating, with all the extra value you're getting from these value pieces, you're going to be going through your deck really fast. And there's a pretty dang good chance you're going to draw one of the 3 big closers. So what do you think about Wylie Duke? Has he changed your mind about Selesnya? Do you like Selesnya now? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Thanks for watching anyway. If you like the video, subscribe for more. We're making more videos all the time. Make sure to join the Patreon. That's where you can vote for whatever video you want to see next. We're moving into the 3 colors. Unless I decide to do the colorless commander first so we have 16 even. I might do that. I haven't decided yet. Check me out on Twitch if you want to watch me play video games live and pick my brain about this. Join the Discord, which is attached to the Patreon, if you want to play decks against me. That's where I play test these decks. And check out Tulok and Mango if you want to watch me play video games in edited cool videos that are cool. Thanks again to Cade for editing this video. We'll see you next time.